welcome back to another Young Blooms flower tutorial. Lovely to be with you on a sunny Friday afternoon here in the UK. I'm going to look at creating a sustainable style aisle, flower aisle essentially. We did a wedding probably a couple of months ago now where we created 5 metre lengths of flowers on the ground to create an aisle for the bride to walk up. And we did it in a sustainable way, which is great. And I want to share the mechanics of that with you today. So I'm going to do a smaller style and let you see how it's made. So let's get cracking. We used containers like these, low, watertight, and we laid them along side by side. We used chicken wire, so lengths of chicken wire, popped them in. You need a double layer of chicken wire, otherwise it's very difficult to, and actually you need to scrunch the chicken wire up to give it some. So I'll show you. So scrunching it up gives that sort of double layer to put the flowers in, because if it's just single, the flowers won't stand upright. So pop tape, just going round. Hold it in place. And if you're feeling the need to be super secure, you go round again the other way. Okay, so chicken wire in, taped, ready to go. I'll do it again. So length of chicken wire, scrunched up, so it's not as big as the tray, so I don't think that necessarily matters. You just want enough to hold everything in. I'm working from home today because up at work there's lots of building work going on, so it's all a bit noisy. So I'm in my greenhouse come workshop. Right, there we go. So, box number 2, you can see. Okay, so quite simple, and we will put those side by side and then start putting the flowers in. Okay, so we've got the trays ready to go, and you can see already that I've got some rather stunning dahlias, which are going to be the focal flowers in this arrangement. I'm just going to use the water from this bucket and fill up my first tray. Right, so before flowers go in, obviously we need foliage. I've got a selection of all British foliage, from mostly from my garden, but some from another grower. So as always, I think with chicken wire, it's kind of it can be a bit annoying to start because you need to get stuff wedged in and stuff to stay in the right place. When we were making this for the wedding, we did it in stages because we had 25 of these trays each side, so it was a bit of a job. So we had a team of 6 of us, and we just started laying up. If you're going for general sort of coverage, I think important to use, for me, I like using different types of foliage. So I've got some sage here, I've got nice sage, I've got mint, this is Pittosporum, and there's jasmine. So real mix, and I think scent is lovely. If you think the bride is walking up that aisle and she gets wafts of this as her dress brushes past, it's quite sort of, I think, quite romantic. So again, jasmine, nice for height, and nice that it's quite delicate. You know, it's not, you don't want massive pieces of tree going in. So mint. Also got rosemary in here, and as always I cut this last night and let it drink for a good 10-12 hours, so it's nicely conditioned. It shouldn't take too long putting foliage in, I think. You know, you don't overthink it, and once you get going you can start sort of churning them out quite quickly, which is a good thing. Because this is, as always, I think something, you know, you need to think about time when you're factoring in cost. and especially if you've got a team of people who are coming in to help you, you've got to factor their wages in. Right, so you can see it looking good. I think I'll just start with this one so you can get a good idea of what you're aiming for. I also have some scented geranium, which is incredible. The smell is just gorgeous, from another local grower. So wonderful to use for texture. The leaves are, they do give off a really beautiful scent. So I am a huge convert. I've only grown one. I think I've grown a variegated geranium, so I've got a piece of that, but I'll break that into two. And actually having the variegated is quite nice. So you can see it's kind of gradually building up. Always aiming for texture. Texture is king, I think. Won't take much more. Another piece of mint. This is just in flower, which I think is quite pretty. So you can see the kind of wispy bits at the top here. It's really nice. And I think when you're making it it's the key is not to overthink it, because I think it's very easy to worry about placement and, you know, does it look right? When actually I think you're just poking in and aiming for, you know, general coverage. So I think the lime greens of this are quite nice and fresh, and then the sage just adds a nice is an added bonus, I think. And I think because the grey is quite monotone, if that's the right word, you know, it's not in your face, so it doesn't matter if you can see a bit of it. For the actual wedding, we used moss to hide any bits of the mechanics that we didn't want anyone to see, so just laid it on the ground, which seemed to work a treat. So I've got randomly got one piece of sedum, which is a bit annoying, but it doesn't matter. I'll give you a close-up of this in a second. So that, I think, is all the foliage I'm going to use. So you can see all the different varieties, the scented geranium, there's sage there, you can see the rosemary, just a bit of sedum, the jasmine sort of wafting over the top, but you can kind of see it's a good selection of different textures, and overall it just gives just a nice relaxed sort of feel. And that's one tray. I don't think, annoyingly, I'm going to have enough foliage to do two, so we will stick with one. You can use your imagination. So once we've done foliage, then it's quite easy from there, I think. You're essentially putting your flowers in and the job is done. So I might put the cafe au lait in first, I think. You want to get it kind of anchored. It's like a peach explosion. I'm not sure about that. I want some smaller ones because that's going to be quite dominant. And I don't think actually you'll need much else, to be honest. I will show pictures of what the aisle looked like that we made for the wedding back in June, because there was a lot more different types of flower. But I think you can see how easy the mechanics are, and we just transported them in large trays. So we sort of 3-4 in a tray. You do need this space in your vehicle, so you need to think about, you know, how am I going to get them to the venue? Because had we had to make these up on the day, we'd have been there until, well, I had to start at some silly o'clock. and we would have struggled, I think. So using the pink and the green amaranthus, which is quite nice. And this amaranthus I think would be lovely because it will trail slightly on the floor, which is great. Again, just liking the textures, liking the feel of it. So definitely into these peachy tones. They're quite lovely. And the chicken wire is holding them really well actually, which is nice. So there's not that fear that they're going to collapse. It's always good. Using the irrational fears of a florist. So I'm just going to add this piece of pittosporum in to break up the dahlia. So you can kind of see. And stuff will move. I think the jasmine's moved at the back, so you can always kind of position it back into a place where it works. Okay, so I don't think I'm going to add much more to this because I think it's got everything it needs, which is good. So I will clean up and then give you a close-up of this to show you the finished thing. So there we go, the finished article. You can see dahlias, see the amaranthus, that single piece of Paul Cosmos, a nice mix. So if you think about it, this just layered along an aisle, tray after tray. It's a super easy mechanic to use to create yourself this aisle flower walkway, or whatever you want to call it. So things to remember, costing. Make sure you've got enough help if you're doing an aisle because it is quite a huge amount of work, and do it in stages. So green everything up first and then put the flowers in. Make sure everything gets topped up, so we did this the day before. Make sure everything is topped up with water overnight, and then you're refilling when you get to the venue because you can guarantee most of the water will have fallen out anyway. So hope you found this helpful. Just really simple design and a useful mechanic in your sustainable sort of journey in floristry. So look forward to seeing you next time.